All right.
Hey guys, welcome to the ExG Championships uh, Top 32 Day 1. We're going to be running through this uh, for 8 matches today, and today's my co-cast is NGE Rainy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Really excited to be here. Looking forward to the championship. Of course, it's been a long time coming. And in the new expansion, nonetheless, of
Yep.
course. Not much time left on this particular set of interactions, perhaps, as things are going to be changing quite a bit, I feel. But still very excited to see what ends up happening, and especially this 5 deck 2 ban format. It's going to be very interesting to watch. It's going to be a lot of, you know, different things that we're going to see here today, and I'm super excited for it. Thanks for having me, Richie.
Yep, and thank you for coming in today. So what's going to be interesting here is that once again 5 decks 2 ban, and on the statistics of all things, there have been a very common theme going on. The four main classes that are we're going to see throughout all most of the time are Blood, Rune, Shadow, and Haven, and Dragon seldomly here and there. And making that five, I guess you can say. And the two classes that are not chosen is Forged and Sword.
Mm-hmm.
Although in the previous expansions they've been pretty dominant in the part of the 3 deck formats, but in this,
Mm-hmm.
despite that there's 5 decks now, those two are the least picked.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the shift. Of course, Swordcraft was mainly popular in the West in terms of what tradition says, and Forestcraft I think was having a rough time, kind of up and down in the last expansion. But I don't think it's too surprising to see that they're the least picked out of the collection of crafts. Um, Obviously, with 5 decks, you're going to need to bring a lot, but I think that uh, Blood, Rune, Shadow, and Haven are going to be great choices, and it'll be interesting to see. I feel like the decks have been as the expansions have come along, the decks
Mm-hmm.
have kind of morphed into what the strongest options were for that deck, and then tacking on a few things here and there and seeing how you can kind of mix the two
Yeah.
together. For example, there, I know that Dragoncraft is maintaining some elements of their ramp, and then they have a few new tools in the bag. I know that, and let me know how effective you think this is going to be, but I see at least some players here running Queen of the Dread Sea. Tell me a little bit about that particular deck and how you think it'll fare
For which one?
for the Queen of the Dread Sea Dragoncraft decks out there.
It's a pretty the strategy here is to ramp up as quickly as you can in order to get the setup where you can just blow someone out. Specifically turns 7 and 8 or 7 through 9. But most of the time, if it's dragons, they're going to try to target classes like Haven if they decide to choose that. And then at Bloodcraft, they're most likely going to be banned. So,
Mm-hmm.
out of that is Haven as a choice. If they decide to choose Rune, um, choosing out targeting a Rune or Haven will be the best choice here. I
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
Shadow can play and win against Dragon, but that depends on the card base. It's more close to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. So Goms, I think, is heading into this whole thing as the top points earner in the EXG championship.
Yep.
And that is actually no small feat. Followed closely by Blaine, but very, very large amount of points here.
Yep.
And he is probably very favored to kind of win this particular match. But let's take a look at how Azur is doing. As a player, how do you think Azur really is set up for this particular matchup here?
So Azir is let me uh, coming with his deck. I can
Mhm.
set myself up here.
Yeah, there's a lot of decks.
This is a lot
Look
of
at all of
decks.
these. Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming in with a Shadow, mid-range Shadow. We
Okay.
actually
Yes,
do
and
not.
still very strong.
Yes, it's still coming out pretty strong. We don't see any way to counter Abyss, which is a strong blood archetype along with Phantom Cat. But instead, if he's going to ban blood, there's no reason to target blood in general. So instead, mid-range Shadow would be the good option to choose here for that deck.
Yes.
Followed by a blood deck. For him, his strategy, if you're gonna bring, everyone's gonna bring blood. So no matter if you're playing Phantom Cat, Hybrid, or Abyss, that's gonna get banned out. More likely, unless the opponent decides to be ballsy there and decides to, counter pick towards it. His dragon looks like typical ramp dragon without Dread Sea Queen. So this is a more traditional Ram Dragon that we've seen in the previous expansion. Not much has
changed. I see that
changed.
Lucifer is back in the kind of deck setup here, which I know fell out of favor kind of towards the end of Tempest of the Gods. But it's interesting to see that he's being picked up now again.
I think it's mainly towards teching towards Burn Rune. So if you have the heal there for 4 and you're constantly healing, there's no way for your opponent to burst you down or burn you out in that way. So, and then we have Azur's Haven list, which is an Aegis build. Interestingly enough, he runs 1 White Tiger in this, and Nisa, the Red Branch Knight. I don't know how to pronounce that, but people told me it's Nisha.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Noise. That's how you pronounce it. Noise.
I was pronouncing it as Naoise, but
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. So two notable things here is the Goblin Breaker Tina, which, since this is a neutral experience with all the decks that's bringing like Alice's, Tina is a pretty strong card. It's more favored than it is with Cudgel, mainly because it does 5 damage instead of just or possibly 2, but you're playing against mostly neutral, so 5 damage there, and then banish in case some stuff happens. And then Azur's, the last of his deck is, I believe, Rune D-Shift. Okay.
Rune D-Shift, which is interesting because I feel like most rune decks these days are using more of a kind of dirt rune setup, either very aggro or even slightly more mid-range. And I don't know, I mean, maybe you can speak to this a little more. I think D-Shift and Daria have somewhat fallen to the wayside compared to that.
Darius is still, if this was in this format, Daria would still be pretty good. Mainly because they can swarm just as quick or quicker, depending on the golden hand that they can get. But I still think that in this format, it's okay to play slower. So that's why I'm thinking Azure brought D-Shift to counter against slower decks.
It's interesting to see too between Azure and Goms. There's some unique differences. For example, Goms brought a rune deck that is dirt rune, and he's included Wizardess of Oz as well. And I just think overall, for example, his Shadow deck, right? It looks somewhat mid-rangey, but he's also got one of Mordecai in there as well. And there's these little interesting things that Gom has thrown into his decks that are just make it slightly different. For example, Havencraft on the side of Azure is Aegis, whereas Gom's Havencraft is actually Seraph. So I really wonder, it really seems like we're seeing 2 different varieties of decks from the same crafts here. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how this match plays out, where we will really get to see some colorful matches here.
So we got the bans. On the Gom side, he chose to ban Rune and Haven. So we're not going to be able to see the slower decks, the control list, Haven and Rune. So
he's letting blood through.
Yep. So Gom, it'll be interesting to see how he's going to play with the Phantom Abyss that's going to happen. Again, this is open deck list, so he knows what's going to happen. Followed by Azure, who actually banned Blood and banned his rune.
Interesting.
So, yep. So we're going to be seeing for Goms, Shadow, Dragon, and Haven versus Azure's Blood, Shadow, and Dragon. Okay.
All right. I'm excited to see what will end up happening in the Excelsior Gaming Championship.
If I can get the room up.
Yep. The room numbers are always going to be quite troublesome to do.
So, one thing I want to mention here, Dom's list is usually, his playstyles is more aggressive. So it makes a lot of sense that Azure decided to went with a more control lineup. They already know who they're playing against, and sometimes some people play or build their deck around a specific person and whatnot. And I think Azure was could be targeting Goms just to get past the first round. It is. It's also known that by the time it hits top 8. 1 week later, we're doing the second part of the championships on Saturday and Sunday, just so that but they can also change their deck list, mainly because of the nerf, and we felt that, we can give them a week time to prepare for the third and the fourth day. So right now, Azure, knowing that, could possibly just targeting Goms just to get to the first round.
Right. And that's actually a very important thing to be able to do to prepare for the championships. I mean, half the battle is fought, if not more, before the tournament actually happens, right? In the deck building phase and in the testing phase. So I really hope that competitors at this level, and Gom, being the top points earner and obviously a very experienced player, I would hope that he would have studied up on Azure as well and maybe brought some decks targeted against what he feels Azure's playstyle is.
Alright, so it looks like we don't actually have the client at the moment. So we're gonna see if we can just add the person to the friends. That's the reason why we can't access right now. That's a little bit unfortunate.
Alright, but at least we have an excuse to be friends with with the top competitors in the Western Shadowverse scene.
Yes.
It's very different. The experience of watching from one side, it's very different in terms of a viewing experience as opposed to watching two hands, because it just becomes different. You don't know exactly what your opponent has, and there's that interesting little tension there. But
yeah, there is.
We will see. I'm very excited for and I really think that allowing the players to be able to change their deck after this round, when all the changes go through, is really great, because more opportunities for players to kind of reevaluate and rethink is going to be very interesting. I know for previous tournaments where that was the case, there was an outstanding, you could really tell the difference between the players that were very good at identifying the strengths and weaknesses of themselves and their opponents, and the players that were not quite as well prepared. There was a lot of very interesting decks that were brought out specifically to face up against their particular matchups. So I think that's going to be really cool to see as the championship goes on.
Alright, we got the names in here. Just a little bit more, guys, and then we'll be able to get in here.
Yes, we've got to be friends with Azure.
Yeah!
So tell me a little bit. So DIS Azure, right?
Yep.
Disastra. Tell me a little bit about them and how they've come to be and what their history is.
So Disastra is a new team that was formulated after Crimson Fencers. So there seems to, like, the players in there had some issues with the management and all that stuff, and so TLDR, they decided, you know what, if that's the case, we're just gonna make our own team. And so Disastra is the team name, and basically the people that were originally from Crimson Fencers moved over to Disastra, in a sense. So the only player that is still in Crimson Fencer is the captain himself, Fatina, which we'll be seeing later today at roughly 5:15 p.m.
Fatina has been doing really well, kind of in the competitive scene just in general.
Yep.
And I know that, for example, is one of the first qualified for the tournament coming up this weekend.
Yes.
So very cool to see them there. But hopefully, we'll get to see a lot more of Disastra here. Obviously, it already has a great roster of competitive players here.
Right.
So it looks like we're going to be watching this from Azur's perspective.
Yep.
Against Goms, which I think is going to be interesting.
I think most likely he'll be starting out with his blood first. Oh, that's why.
Oh, because it's the different format?
It's a different format.
Yep. You're going to have to tell them to do the single matches. It is a cool format though. You can look at the decks and stuff. It's awesome.
I'm very glad because this actually fits the 5x2 ban.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yep. Oh, tournament logistics.
Yep.
Either way, what can these players look forward to in the ExG Gaming Championship? What are the stakes?
About $1,000.
$1,000?
Yeah. Well, technically 400 for first place, and then it's split for like top 8 people. 4th through 8th would get $60, and then 2nd and 3rd would get 200 and 100, I think. So that is what is this at stake, but also letting the people know that this global championships entitles, the bragging rights that they've won against all these players from around the world. So yeah, exciting stuff. Now,
all right.
The journey here is actually very long too. It's been a year into the making of this, since August, and
yes,
these players kept playing for a year long just to get to this point. And I think it's more rewarding to recognize these players as one of the best in Shadowverse to play. We actually have like 2 Japanese players from Japan playing in this tournament as well, and as well as Koreans, Taiwanese, and it's
a very international tournament, that's
global,
for sure.
Yes.
And certainly these names are, of course, it's mostly going to be a kind of Western player base, or at least foreign to Japan player base. And these guys are names that are consistently at the top, and like you said, working year round. I mean, some of them are really old school. I think some of them are not quite the full year, but they're still some of the strongest names you'll find in the scene. So undoubtedly, you're going to see top level play here.
Okay.
We're getting into our first match. There it is.
Havencraft
versus Dragoncraft. All right. Talk to me. Talk to me about this.
So I thought that Blood was going to go first, but instead he decided to go with a counter. He's thinking, you know what? I'm not going to go Blood first. I'm going to make him think I'm going to go Blood first. So I'm going to choose the counter, which is Dragon versus Haven. And I did mention that Dragon is pretty good against slower decks, like Haven and Rune. And so he chose out straight to the Dragon. So he knew beforehand. And then Haven is pretty good against Blood. So Goms is coming in to trying to counter against this list.
Alright. So we're starting out. And it looks like Dragon Oracle is going to be the first pick. Got 2 Sibyls, so that's actually quite nice. But you're missing out on some 4 play point drop here. And I noticed that actually, I think it was Gom's deck list that Rahab had been removed from the Dragoncraft kind of lineup. And I know that it was kind of a staple in Tempest of the Gods. And I wonder what has caused that change. I feel like there's a lot of early aggression in this particular meta. Maybe they just thought that Rahab couldn't really cut it, but 5 toughness with a ward, it seems pretty good to me. I wonder what the other 4-drop territory options have been for Dragoncraft players.
Usually Rahab, but aside from that, Dragon Warrior, but that's pretty niche at this point for a 4-drop.
Well, it looks like we've already gotten to that 5 play point phase, so Azur's going to be able to field out that first Sybil, and going up against just a Snow White, which, while a fantastic card, and has that double swing capability, not the best matchup against a 4/5 Sybil. You're just going to get battered around.
Alright. Seems like, okay.
Snow White down, 2 amulets ticking away. 4 Goms gonna choose to spend Evolve on Prism Priestess. And go for the trade, and now Snow White will remain in its Evolve state and lose the last word. New card in the expansion, and very, very popular. Almost run in every single Havencraft deck, and I think there's good reason to do so. But the second Sybil here, and this just gives so much value to Azur. It's hard to challenge back-to-back Sybils, especially when you're getting the Dragoncraft player to build up to that 10 play point territory. And next turn, Azur is already well positioned to start throwing down Ouroboros, and that is a headache to deal with.
Wow. So the thing here too, I mean, if he gets a Cudgel, this is a pretty easy answer to get rid of. If he had gotten the neutral Tipo, that would get rid of us. No, not much. Tipo is actually pretty bad here, mainly because it only can do 2 damage. So Cudgel is a pretty good answer. If not, he would have to trade in with his Holy Flame Tiger here.
Yeah. Which will be interesting, and there's a lot of card draw on the board coming in for Goms, but hasn't quite ticked in just yet. And obviously we know that Goms is running a Seraph Haven deck, so we'll really have to think about what is going to be the opportunity for you to play that Seraph, especially when you have cards like Zeus and Bahamut on the field here. Of course, Bahamut is going to advance that Seraph 1 stage. We need to be very careful about that. But it is just, he's going to get to 10 play points before I think Seraph is even an option on the table for Goms. And then if you play Seraph and Bahamut's already down, that's basically suicide, right? So it's I feel like it's looking pretty grim here for Goms.
Yeah, especially since his hand is just gonna... He can't really do much about this at the moment, unless he can use Themis Decree over and over again.
Yeah, Themis Decree. Just back to back.
Back to back.
All right, here it is. The Ouroboros is out and 9 play points, so the next turn is really going to be when the big hitters are.
Yeah, the thing to worry here is whether Azure... Well, this is an Aegis deck, I believe, right?
Yes. No. For Goms, it's going to be Seraph.
Seraph, I didn't take a look at this. So here he knows that Azure knows this is Seraph. He needs to put out as much damage as he can, making sure that he does not get to play that. So a lot of pressure needs to put through here. So
thinking hard about his turn, and I really think, I mean, 7 play points against an Ouroboros, and on the next turn, you know that some big things are coming out. You really need to have options in hand to be able to deal with this, but
he also needs to deal with this safely as well. Because he doesn't, if he allows, let's say he kills this, that means that this will keep coming back. And so he has to get rid of it before he can play his Seraph, unless he wants to eat 10 damage to the face plus another 5.
Yeah, okay, it's going to be Tribunal.
Okay, so that's a
good
good
option. Healing, I mean, for a Seraph win condition, the healing is a little bit irrelevant, but it's just a tempo, right? It's just well, rather, I think tempo is the wrong word, but it's just the threats that keep coming back. So, just plays the Ouroboros again, it says. All right. Let's play. Yeah, and I think that combination of Zeus Ouroboros to swing constantly, the instant this Ouroboros is not removed, you can play Zeus and evolve for incredible amounts of damage. I think 15 is the swing currently. So,
well, bright side is at least he's not going to be afraid of Bahamut anytime soon.
yeah.
So that's the reason why he went for this choice. I'm pretty sure he had other options in his hand.
Yeah.
But he went
Oh
straight
god,
for
and
this,
he has
so.
Grimner too. Of course, that card is still here. Oh, man, and you know, so in this situation, you need to self heal or remove the Ouroboros. You know, it's just so much pressure on the side of Azure, and I really have to think that it's just that good matchup that you were talking about. Just a smart choice on the side of Azure here, and he's really reaping the benefits of that.
Yep. So a little bit of a mind trickery happening before the match even started. So this is essentially very important when choosing what to bring in. Not a lot of option here.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Sure.
Ooh. Okay. That's 1 extra damage over the Ouroboros, but he doesn't quite threat as much damage here if the you know, if there isn't that ability to remove it. But I guess he realized that the Tribunal was going to do that anyways. And he's done it.
Yeah, I felt that was the wrong choice actually. I think Zeus would have been a better, because now he just allowed him to play the statues.
Yeah. He's going to play the Ouroboros here. That's going to ping for 3.
Now,
and I have to wonder.
I mean, what are the odds of him getting 3 cooldown reduction?
There's always a chance, you know. And this is what I'm talking about. We can't actually. Oh my god.
There it is. Uno.
Oh my god. No.
Dos.
Richie, what did you pull me into?
Dos.
Okay.
Come on, numero 2.
He would have played it if he had it. He would have played
he's
it
thinking.
if he had it. So. No, what is there? He would have played it if he had it. What is there to think about? You know what I mean? He can't win on this turn.
Look at it. See, he's creating suspense.
Oh my god! Can't. I will be so upset. Please.
Pass turn. He was just kidding. He's like, you know what? If you play Bahamut here, I get to win.
Yep.
You get to play.
Not an option anymore.
Yep. So he lets this opponent win. He's like, yep, I lost.
Yep. Oh my god, that. I actually got mad watching that. I do think so. Let's consider the options here. I mean, he chose to play. Of course, his Bahamut option was locked out for a long time, right? Because the Tribunal existed. Bahamut comes in, takes down the Tribunal. The Tribunal, as its last word effect, will remove Bahamut. But I wonder if there was an opportunity for him to play Bahamut instead of Ouroboros on one of the early turns. I guess it would have gotten removed by the Tribunal coming afterwards anyway, since he had multiple copies of them. But what about that Grimner turn? I mean,
that was definitely not the answer there. The Zeus was a far better answer in the sense that it still creates a threat. It's 5, and well, thinking about it, he might still even play the Seraph. Would he there?
I think so. I'm trying to think about if you had played the Ouroboros.
Right.
I mean, the only way for him to play out of that situation is if he could have gotten himself to be able to actually take down the health points of Goms on the turn after that, right? That's the only way. So he would have either had to draw into an option, and collectively between the damage of Ouroboros' 3 damage tick and Zeus's evolved swing, been able to close out the game. So I don't know if that was a situation there, but definitely, I mean, Gom's Havencraft deck, we were talking about the draw options as well as Prison Priestess. He had all the options that he needed. And we were talking about how in this situation, you need to have the options in hand to deal with what Azure's play was. And he did. He did. And that deck is certainly built to handle that scenario. Looking grim for a long time, but I think Goms was well equipped to handle the situation.
Alright, next up we have Blood versus Shadow. So he decided to switch his deck to play Shadow, which is a Phantom Cat Abyss hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually know a whole lot about this matchup. Gums, I don't know if he has a matchup where he can counter this with the 7-drop Kawi.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be essentially the card that wins the game for him. That's all he needs.
We'll see. Blood going second is obviously a not necessarily the best position for the type of deck that Bloodcraft is right now, but hey,
Right.
Evolve Orbs are always cool. And of course, we've got so many neutral cards in the deck. Really going to make use of those synergies that were handed on a silver platter to the Bloodcraft,
Right.
to Bloodcraft fans out there in this expansion. So I think it'll be interesting to think about mid-range Shadow, and we know that this mid-range Shadow is the one with the Mordecai 1-drop here, and I'm eager to. I really want to kind of get Goms's idea of what he feels the strengths are of having that 1-drop Mordecai, as well as kind of how he feels that, because obviously he's not going to be running any kind of Nephthys kind of thing, right? So it's definitely Mordecai in a different light. It's not quite as similar to what you would traditionally expect out of a Mordecai deck.
Well, Mordecai is difficult. No matter what, he's a difficult card to deal with. Having at least one or two, and then have Erd on top of it, it's like, I just need one copy. Because I'm just gonna multiply it, and then have you deal with it. If you play Shadow and you ban out the Haven, that's literally all the answers you need to play Mordecai in any deck, because nobody runs Odin anymore. Nobody runs
Banish is far and few in between. That's a very good point. The board state here is going quite well. I mean, that Lich Pop is actually quite good against some of these removal effects that Blood has, but obviously, as you can see, the effect of having that fanfare as well as using the Evolve for the straight swing,
that one didn't count.
So effective. All right, here comes the Bone Chimera. 3/3. It's gonna pop into 2 skeletons when it dies. Oh god. Okay. Well,
there's a Phantom Cat, no Abyss, but a 3-drop Phantom Cat is still a pretty scary card.
Yes.
You have options.
There's a lot of pressure a lot of pressure that you can get, and you still draw into more options. So it's just playing for the future.
Well, he would actually do more than deal 2 damage to the enemy leader for each neutral. Okay, so he can do up to 4 damage.
Right, for each neutral card he draws if he grabs 2.
Yep.
Which is an incredible amount, by the way. That's crazy. For 3 play points as well. 3 play point 5/5. That does up to 4.
It's like, hey, free damage, no worries. Oh, that would have been the card he would have drawn.
Yeah. We'll see. He opts to play the 6 play point 1. Ooh. Nice. Got 0. Sick. Hey, that's a card, Tove.
Yep. Now, Tove, recently, or theoretically, we believe that Tove is going to be the nerf card. So.
Oh God.
Okay. Cool.
I lost.
Yep.
Yeah. Demon Lord.
Hey, I actually I was so busy kind of just staring into space, but really the reality of it is that I think Bloodcraft drew a lot of great early game options.
Yep.
And that's a problem. I mean, it is a very early game facing deck, and typically I think that's almost like rolling the worst possible situation, right? You got a bunch of Phantom Cats. None of them, you had all your neutral cards in hand, you didn't play your Alice, as well as your Phantom Cats didn't even draw
Right.
the neutrals, you know, and you couldn't even make it to Abyss, right? Your Baphomet didn't give you the choice to play Abyss, and even if you did, that Demon Lord Actor came down.
Right.
As Blood going second, this is really some of the deficits of going second against mid-range Shadow, right? Keep in mind, Tempest of the Gods is not irrelevant now, right? Mid-range Shadow is still a very real thing. And especially if you let them get that kind of board control, 3 cards ready to swing on board, that's crazy. You would never let that happen in Tempest of the Gods.
Right.
Or rather, you would really not like that to happen. Whether you let it happen or not, sometimes it's out of your control.
So I think here we actually finally get to see Azure winning at least this round.
Yeah.
Because Azure, well, the thing is, Phantom Cat is just pretty fast deck, and it also swarms quite frequently too, as long as Phantom Cat keeps coming in and a bunch of Alices coming out to buff everything in their hand. And
Yeah. All right. This is like a little more traditional. Isla's coming out. Goms has been playing really well, and we talked about it, right? As the leading points earner, there's some element of experience and consistency that has to come with that. And so I'm not too surprised about how the results are going so far, but that's not to say, I mean, there were definitely options in hand and things that Azure had. I mean, his decks are very solid. We'll see if he can play his options and get the options that he needs to turn this around, but 2-0 so far for Goms.
It's also interesting too that Azure came in trying to counter Goms. He did it, but just didn't get the right cards, I guess, in time.
This is God's word.
Look at that boy.
You follow behind.
Spawn of the Abyss. Sitting there waiting. And I think it's probably one of the more effective cards to use against Dragoncraft, just because it has that inevitability about it. You know, you're going to do damage. And especially when you're getting such early pressure off the Dream card Alice. 11 health points already on Goms, but gonna be healing a little bit about off of that.
Oh, he's about to heal up. Oh, he's going in for the ramp too. So.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So that's why he had the answer the entire time in his hand.
Yep. And you know, good, solid play here. Let's see, Phantom Cat. Oh, got him!
Oh god.
He's running to the bank, and look, he's still, look at the stat line on that card, Richie. That is one fine, handsome card. 7/7 on the evolve.
Sorry, I don't like redheads too much.
Alright, let's see what the Sahag play here is. Oh, and that Zeus is going to be very effective.
Right.
Moving that, and the Zeus is not dead, so it'll just pop back. And he still has that option, but now, of course, Azure is going to know, alright, he's got Zeus next turn. Not that it's going to be super relevant, and you're getting up to the point where you have Abyss. Now, no Evolve Orb, so there isn't that immediate damage. Actually, very unlucky, I think, that he didn't get any damage off of that Phantom Cat, because it would have really set up a 2-turn play for the spawn of the Abyss. I
think...
But we'll see.
Yeah, he just needed one neutral to pop out, but instead, hey, got our second spawn of the Abyss, you know? Alright, shoots him in the face with the laser and gonna wipe out everything on the board.
And I like this, right? You want to be a step ahead. If you play the spawn and then you play the Bahamut, you still take the face damage. But now that the Bahamut is down first, you really need to think about, okay, we need to figure out some way to remove this. The Tova is not gonna do it. Right? The Tova is just a little. What is it? Is Tova Fox? What is that?
It's a anteater.
It's an anteater. Oh, wow.
That's what I'm thinking. Unless that's a tongue at the bottom,
really
I'm not entirely sure.
It's actually really hard to tell. I feel like my eyes go cross-eyed when I try to look at it too hard. But also, it's behind blurry vision because of the tears in my eyes whenever I see it played. It's beating me up. Well, let's see. He's got cards on the board, so Bahamut can't quite swing face just yet, but I'm sure there's some options in hand here. Okay, he's getting Draconic Fervor.
Oh no. Okay, this is good. He can clear out too.
You have angered me. If my brother
There it is.
I can. Let's play again.
And he uses Evolve Point for that.
Oh, he's dead. Almost. 1 HP. Ooh.
Yep, 1 HP. And this is really the benefit. That means you can't play Spawn of the Abyss, really, right? Because that's a pass. The Spawn of the Abyss doesn't ward for you. It doesn't kind of immediately remove pressure, and especially without the Evolve Orb, you know,
he can't even
not looking very healthy.
He can't even play the Grimnir. It's not even turn 10 for him.
I am the Mad Cyclone.
He's just gonna have to use him for the ward.
I blew my mistake.
Second Grimnir?
I am
Alright.
the Mad
Yeah,
Cyclone.
yeah. Yep, but he has Zeus in hand. Is there a way for him to close it out with that? No, don't think so. He has to kill another ward and then
Yeah,
find
usually
some way.
situation like this is difficult to go through, but he gets to
He's gonna
live
play the
with one
Zeus
more turn.
anyways.
Yep.
And I can't see his cards, but I would assume he has a second Storm card here in his hand, so he's willing to just drop the Zeus down.
That's most likely the way.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
he's dead.
Yep.
I am a
Dead.
flower.
Wow!
I
Look at that,
blew my
Goms.
mistake.
3-0. No problem. He's gonna use the Ouroboros.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess it was
You're
inevitable.
tough.
If he, that had to be a top deck, right?
Yep.
Because he would have played it last turn if it wasn't. So,
Dragon once again showing how dominant it is.
hey, Blood just got beat twice in a row, and you know, makes sense when you can target out. And you know, Gom specifically did not ban Blood as well, so he probably was very confident in his deck list and what he was going to bring to face off against this terror that is Phantom Cat Spawn of the Abyss.
Yep.
And I think he played around it really smart. His timing on dropping Bahamut was really good. He got the edge in terms of ramp, and of course his mid-range Shadow. You know, to be honest, I really think going first was such a large advantage for him in that particular matchup. When mid-range Shadow goes first, you're looking really good. So, Goms will go to the round of 16, I believe.
Yes, he is. That means he's done for the day.
And we will be moving on to the next match, which, if we're going down the list, I assume will be Noah.
No, the next list, yeah, you're right. It is Noah versus Shadow Lulu. We're starting that in 1:15. We are slightly lagging, so what we're going to be doing is going to do a 10-15 minute break, just so that we can fix something on the production side of things. At the same time, at 1:15 is when the next match will start.
All right.
All right, so hopefully things will get things right with the
Internet, please.
No, it's not the internet. It's encoding overloaded.
Oh no.
It cannot
Okay.
it cannot handle the game.
The intensity.
The intensity of this
Shadowverse.
game is making it lag.